think people are just looking at what has happened with SoFi from the wrong lens. People got too excited about it and the price went too high.
SoFi is down 50% as we speak. Is that an opportunity that you see in the market right now? You know, while AMD and everyone's talking about NVIDIA all-time highs, stock market all-time highs, there's a few outliers there, one of them being SoFi, down 50%. So is that an opportunity you're looking at now?
100%, bro. Like, it's one of those things where I'm at the point to where I think people are just looking at what has happened with SoFi from the wrong lens, almost, right? So a lot of people will look at the SoFi chart, and what they'll see is a chart that's down, right? Let me just clear this up. And anyone who's listening, what we're doing right now is just looking at the SoFi chart. And if you haven't seen it, it's not good. You know, it's gotten absolutely nuked. It's fallen from $32, $33 all the way down towards, you know, currently right around $15. And it's been a rough experience. And because people look at SoFi from this perspective and they see this big fall, they automatically write it off as if like, oh, okay, SoFi must be bad. This must not be good for SoFi. But if we really just dissect what happened here, it just got like people got too excited about it and the price went too high. That's all it was. It got overextended. But an overextension is normal whenever something has a lot of retail backing, right? When these sort of stocks have a bunch of retail backing and everyone's excited about them, everyone's talking about them, of course, they have these moments where they get a little unreasonable. And I think what happened with SoFi is that it got unreasonable, for sure. I think this was a bit of a ridiculous thing to happen, and maybe we got a little bit too forward-looking there. And now it's come back down to the point in which it's starting to reach a land of reason. And if it is in a land of reason, and it's supposed to be at this price, let's say this never happened. Let's say SoFi never made a crazy run like this, and it just pulled all the way back down to where it is right now. And this never happened. What SoFi did instead would have been something like this. How would people feel about it? How would people feel about SoFi? I think a lot of people would still think that this is a fantastic opportunity. We're talking about a company whose revenue is climbing, whose members are climbing, their products are climbing, they're adjusting to the environment very well. Their net income is performing decently well. You know, their earnings per share has done decently well. Also, I think anyone who would be looking at a SoFi stock that's priced never had this overextension moment, never had this moment of euphoria. It was just in a normal, kind of growth pattern. I think so many people would be looking at this as a fantastic opportunity to be buying SoFi because it does have forward-looking potential. So because of that, I'm capable of removing myself from what happened back here and looking at it in this current position and say, okay, that's still the same exact SoFi that we have right now. The SoFi that everyone would be looking at from a different lens is still the same SoFi we have. But the difference is that when you look at it from a technical perspective, which carried that as much weight as you may, it's just screaming to me that it doesn't mean that we're about to be, pumping, but it's giving all the signs of a stock that is preparing to change the trend. For example, when you look at the price and you look at the Fibonacci's, which is a super complicated tool that doesn't have to be, we are in the key zone. There's a zone called the golden zone, and this is where things usually change. Let's just keep it simple as that. This is where things usually change. We've been in a downtrend. We hit the golden zone. Now we're there. And as we hit the golden zone, things started to change. For the very first time, SoFi's prices put in a higher high on the weekly time frame. It put in a high that was higher than the previous one. This was the first time it's done that since it was at its all-time high. It's been in a downtrend. And if SoFi can maintain where we are now without falling below $15, that could even potentially mean that this downtrend that it's been in could technically be coming towards an end, right? And so when I factor in the fact that, again, the technicals are showing that momentum is shifting, it is obviously changing. At the same time that people are so bitter. I mean, it's an extreme level of bitter, reasonably, because so many people bought up here. I see this as an absolutely fantastic buying opportunity. And does that mean SoFi cannot continue down? Of course it can, reasonably. SoFi could fall to $10 or below one day. I don't think it's going to, but it can. And I'd just be willing to buy more there. So it's just one of those situations where I understand why the noise is there, but I am ignoring it in many capacities and saying, I think this would be a great opportunity one way or another, so I'm buying some.
Is it down from a fundamental perspective because of people expecting rates will go up? That affects their underlying business, I think, correct? And they're year-to-date down about 44%, which is kind of when it started to change.
Yeah, so it was a mixture of a couple different things. But the biggest thing that kind of spooked the market, especially as of recently, has been the idea that they would possibly be capping credit lines and things of that nature. And then obviously that does impact their business as well, which I do agree with. And that's why I'm not on the boat of someone, there are members of the SoFi community, shout out to you guys, who are saying SoFi is unfairly falling. It should be past an all-time high, et cetera, et cetera. My positioning is not that. I do think it's reasonable that SoFi's prices come back down because there are inherent risks right now that have to be addressed. The credit risk is definitely a thing. The interest rates coming up could impact it, obviously, whenever it comes to their business and the yield that they're generating off of those loans, right? That is definitely possible. So I do see a world in which this is the cyclical moment for SoFi to be pulling back a bit, but I think it's overcorrected. So in the way that it went too high, I think now we're getting to the positioning in which it's gone too low, based purely off emotion and less the fundamental side of things. Because I don't think they're going to make any changes with the credit rates. I don't think that, or the limits on credit. I don't think that's coming, personally speaking. And so when you consider that, I just think it's being unfairly beaten down now at this point, but I don't think it pulling back in general was unfair.